Sheshadrini, that's your name.
Yes.
So Reddy happens to be some kind of a caste name. And your surname is Surukonti.
Yes.
Good. And you belong to Telangana state.
Yes.
Also, you are also born here.
Yeah, born and brought up in Hyderabad.
You studied mostly in Telangana only.
Yes, sir.
Even the IIT was in Hyderabad. You tell me in about 3 minutes about Telangana state. People say it is one of the smallest states, that it is incapable of having growth because it has limited resources. This is only to provoke you. So you can tell whatever you want to say about Telangana state.
Telangana state, it has been formed in 2014 after the state bifurcation from the erstwhile United AP. It is one of the smallest states, the 29th state.
Is it?
One of the smallest states.
In area, it is much larger than West Bengal, Assam, Bihar. It is the 11th largest state in the country. Out of the 20.
29.
29.
No, Jammu and Kashmir.
Telangana is 29th.
Oh no, but then Jammu and Kashmir became so 28. Out of these 28, in terms of area, 1,12,000 square kilometers. So this is just to sort of alert to you. Okay, now he will take on.
You have IITs, triple ITs, and RGUKTs in the state of Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Tell me the difference between the IIT, triple IT, and RGUKT.
Sir, IITs are known for being the premier engineering institutes of the country. The first, they are usually ranked first in terms of their brand value, and then triple ITs and RGUKT of the New Delhi.
What is the form of triple IT? Do you know?
In Indian Institute of Information Technology, sir. Yes, sir.
Who has established that?
Sorry, sir, I'm not aware.
What is the full form of RGUKT?
Sir, I'm not aware of the figures.
Have you heard of Rajiv Gandhi University for Knowledge Technologies?
We have in Telangana also.
Yes, Basar?
Yes, I didn't know.
What mentioned Newsweek?
Yeah, Newsweek, yeah, you mentioned.
Yeah.
But in Telangana.
Okay, thank you, sir.
What is the difference in terms of admission process in RGUKT? Do you have any idea?
Sir, according to my limited knowledge, I believe that is from the JEE mains. JEE means the prelude to JEE Advanced. JEE means score, I believe, decides the recruitment.
Sections of students get priority in admissions in RGUKTs?
Eligibility.
Government schools, Jilla Parishad?
They get priority. Actually meant for them.
Yeah. So I thought I'll clarify to you afterwards. Anyway, now of late we have been hearing of Government of India thinking of, through the AICTE, doing away with the physics and mathematics knowledge to be relevant for engineering admissions. Do you agree with that proposition? To what extent this knowledge helps in engineering admissions?
Sir, I believe definitely it
Slightly
is.
away from us. Perhaps she can open the maths.
No, we are comfortable.
Because I'm
It's
not
okay. Are you comfortable in the chair?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Then you sit back.
Relax.
You make your back rest.
If you feel like you can remove the mask and.
If you are not comfortable.
it's okay, sir.
All right.
I
Now
leave
we
it
can hear you better.
Sir, I believe it is not a bad idea, definitely, because maths and physics, if we look into the IR4, the Industrial 4.0, Industrial Revolution 4.0, the new kinds of fields that are coming in, artificial intelligence, etc. I think maths and physics has a lot lesser to do with these new subjects that are coming in. So maybe if, and also the national education policy, it emphasizes on multidisciplinary institutions. So I think if maths and physics, if it may not play much role in the engineering streams like artificial intelligence, okay, maybe in chemical engineering or many other streams inside engineering, they do not have much to do with math and physics. I think if the students are okay with it, then it's not a bad idea.
It is said that your analytical abilities would be better in case you study maths at your younger ages.
It might be true to some extent, but it's okay if analytical abilities also are hinged upon many other attributes also. So I don't think math is the only panacea to build analytical capability.
There is a criticism generally in the country that there is a lot of governmental control over the temples in India, the Hindu temples in India. In that background, how do you look at the government of Telangana spending lots of money on the Yadadri temple from that district you hail from Yadadri, your father hails from?
Taxpayers' money. This is not donations from volunteers.
Yeah, government spending from
Consolidated fund of Telangana.
government of Telangana doing otherwise.
Justification.
So government of Telangana, yes, it is spending huge amounts from the exchequer for rebuilding the Yadadri Swami temple. Sir, I believe the step that the government has taken means one thing, one main aim of it would be to create a cultural hub more than, and also a spiritual hub around that area, which would add to the soft power, the tourism abilities of the state. That is one thing. Of course, the criticism comes from the fact that India being a secular state, routing its taxpayers' money to one particular religion would be very quite understandably drawing some space from other sections of the society. But yet, I think it must be done. It must be done in moderation, because keeping in mind the tourism economy and other socio-economic realities of that particular region. So I think.
What kind of controls the government exercises over other temples in the state of Telangana?
So I believe some are private and some are government. I am not very much aware of it.
Why did you not offer the railway services in this exam?
So the option itself, I didn't find it anywhere. I didn't find the option anywhere, sir. There was only one railway protection force service.
Why the options of railway engineering services, they were not included in civil services this year?
So there is some reported restructuring of railway services happening. So maybe that could be the reason of it. I do not.
But the railway engineering services part of civil services exam before?
I don't think until I think in 2013-14 it was not the case, sir.
Prelims exam.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because the part of it. UPSC was conducting it, but it was not part of civil service.
Tell me whether the mission Bhagirath has succeeded in the state of Telangana. If so, to what extent? If not, why? What are the problems?
Sir, it is not. It might not be a complete success or complete failure. Yes, definitely there had been good results of Mission Bhagirath. It has, especially if we look at the remotest districts, the remotest villages in Adilabad, etc. also, the government has been, there are visible evidences of it, that the government has been able to supply drinking water, functional tap connections to the household. But yes, there are some, there is also criticism from some quarters with regards to the misappropriation of funds and alleged corruption, etc. But I think, sir, definitely it has been a success from itself. Of course, there are implementational issues, there are leakages, but overall, I believe it is a success.
Leakages, or what kind of leakages are you referring to?
Sir, with regards to misappropriation of funds, better efficiency could have been achieved. Efficiency issues are there. Um,
When you say there is misappropriation of funds, are you going by the newspaper reports or from what the Comptroller and Auditor General has pointed out?
Sir, newspaper. I think carried.
In Hyderabad, there was no drinking water available prior to Mission Bhagirath. Is it?
No, it was available, but the women, they had to travel long distances with a water pot in their hand. But that problem to some extent because of this tap connection has been.
What is the quantity of drinking water required by a human being according to our Government of India's norms in India?
You studied in Johnson. Can you say something about Johnson? Who is the
Sir, he was the ancestor of the founder of our school, sir, Samuel Johnson, his name. Yes.
You don't know. Both. But was the founder a grammarian?
Sir, I'll have to read on that. Sir. I'll have to read on that, sir. I'll do more research on that.
Ever heard of a word called lexicon?
Yes.
Lexicographer.
Yes, sir, I have.
To find any connection between Dr. Samuel Johnson and lexicon or lexicography?
Also with the NSS, right?
Yes.
What is actually?
Sir, NSS for me, it had been a trigger point why I came into this field, why I chose this field. Because NSS, the National Service Scheme, it had been a trigger point for according to me, for me, as to why I had to choose this service. So during our college days, I had been a volunteer in NSS, and there we were allocated certain classrooms in the schools nearby our college, and there, sir, we were going to teach those students 8th class, 9th class, and 10th class. And there, what I found is the one striking thing was that the students of 8th, 9th, 10th, they were not even able to do the basic multiplication and division the sums in maths, and even reading a paragraph in English was very difficult for them. 5th class books were also very difficult. So I think that the situation of and basic infra, uniform, these things were also not there for them. So that really pinched me a lot, and maybe God willing, if I get a chance to serve, education sector will be one thing.
Objective of NSS.
The objective is, the motto of it is not me but you. That is to increase social awareness and make the student community more service oriented and people oriented. That is the objective.
Okay. So can we say that this NSS has really made you to choose public service as a career option?
So that was just a trigger point. The civil services had always been on my mind right from childhood. Yes, sir. Sir, first thing, coming from a rural background, I have got the chance to see closely the kind of problems that the rural, both my grandparents are farmers, so the problems that they have faced. Going to an MRO office for a small passbook, every day they go and they return empty-handed. They keep, so these things they have been.
Is your father a public servant? Or?
No, sir. He's a civil contractor business. Yes.
Since you were mentioning about people going to MRO's office, coming empty-handed and things like that, I'm sure. I mean, from an agriculture background. You must have come across recent this show of Dharani in Telugu exactly is happening in the?
So the idea was to bring up a comprehensive all-in-one agricultural and non-agricultural land registration and administration issues to one portal. That is the basic idea. So, the idea was really welcoming, but there are certain implementation issues in it. For instance, the Niti Aayog, it has already said that bringing up a, a a very concrete land title guarantee act is required, and a resurvey of the entire land there is required. It could be a good prerequisite for getting this into full institutionalized form. So that is so there are, and also there are many other implementation issues because when we bring both agriculture and non-agricultural land at once into one portal, then certain issues do come up. So I think it is still in the working process.
Unique initiative of Telangana government, or is it a takeoff from somewhere else?
Um, I'm not sure whether
Yes,
What is that?
that is
the use of drone technology for comprehensive land survey in the block level and village level, the central government schemes.
Now, do you think, in Dharani, what is happening is you are simply uploading all the titles, it's okay, good. But there are also disputes about titles. So, without resolving disputes about titles, garbage in, garbage out.
So that's true, sir. That is why proper critics have pointed out that proper land titling, giving them conclusive land titling, should be the prerequisite to and also timely and speedy disposal of all the land litigation cases.
Conclude that the Telangana state government has put the cart before the horse.
Sir, I think sometimes even, so for instance, like if I can draw an analogy, the Digital India program, of course, people are not digitally aware when it came up. But I think once if we start pushing things, only then these people, the demand is also created. So maybe that kind of idea went into it.
Okay, so you are a woman and you are also now planning to get into civil service and things like that. There is also currently debate going on, and even some political parties in Tamil Nadu are also saying that women working at home, okay, the so-called homemaker, quote unquote, right? So the so-called women homemakers should be compensated for their domestic work. What is your take on that?
So, um, firstly, I have, my mother is also a homemaker. I have immense respect towards homemakers, the kind of work they do. I think the intangibles, mostly their love, the affection, that I believe that it is priceless, and putting a price tag to it, I don't think it is commendable. But I don't think it really is required. Instead, women must be actively brought into a paid economy. Yeah, by there are many methods. I think the SHG is a very good thing that has been in the game for a very long time now. So engaging them, the National Rural Livelihood Mission, creating more opportunities for women in the private sector. So I think these things should be done.
Downside to the issue. Is there a downside to this whole issue of women getting paid for what they do at home? Or is it all okay, fine, why not give? Because there's one Makkal Nidhi Mayam of Kamal Hassan. He has made a promise, he has put it in his manifesto.
Sir, I think they're anyways going to do what they do, even if they are not going to be paid by the government. So I don't think it should matter in any way. Instead, sir, bringing them into active economy should be the way forward, I believe. So, creating more opportunities for them, but they just doing what they love to do. Homemakers, I I think so.
Gender stereotyping in domestic.
Huh. Yeah.
Your mom knows.
Yes, sir. That is also one of the inherent benefits.
Right. You also seem to have some interest in fine arts and all this. You do. Have you learned Kuchipudi dancing?
In school days, sir, not now. Sir, I haven't got much time, but whenever it is a hobby, whenever I find leisure time, I do it for my
Formal training from a guru or?
Yes, sir. Formal training in school days from 3rd to 7th, sir, 7th standard. Every week for 50 minutes to 1 hour. There used to be a period for that.
Different from Bharatanatyam.
The Kuchipudi is more, Bharatanatyam is known for its spirituality, more of spiritual and otherworldly messenger. But Kuchipudi is more folksy and it is more sensual. So that is, so this is more closer to the modern day Bollywood kind of movie kind of a dance. But I mean, sir, that has more. This Bharatanatyam is more otherworldly. It is more spiritual. Kuchipudi is not like that, so it is more closer to art.
Your perception. One second. So I found, that you are from IIT Hyderabad. And IIT is a big brand. Yeah. And, there are so many articles by people from, New York Times and all big publications also, saying that the brand is so high that, you can get a wonderful job, build a career, make a lot of money, and possible. But, you seem to have not exercised that option and moved into it. In the last 2 years, you seem to be only concentrating on this. Why?
Sir, like I said, sir, civil services has always been on my mind. It was my childhood dream. Instead, sir, I think I would rather have to give you an explanation as to why I had to deviate from that path and get into an IIT. Sir, actually, sir, coming from a rural background, a typical middle class mentality has drove me into this, I believe, IIT, wherein it stems from a certain kind of inferiority complex that where we have to prove, where we tend to prove everything. We try to prove a point for ourselves. So that ego issues maybe that must have driven me into this.
And IIT.
Yes, sir. Maybe, yes, sir.
And what happened, during the campus placement and all that? So you must have had some peer pressure and got a job, or is metallurgy not a good subject?
So metallurgy, I absolutely love metallurgy, sir, over many other branches like computer science, etc. Because I had some inherent interest in things like in subjects like chemistry. So I really enjoyed studying metallurgy. So that is not a reason as to why I did not opt for a job. Like I said, sir, I was very steadfastly pursuing the civil services only. Even during my graduation days, I always used to take time for this.
That explains why from 95, 93, you have come down 7.3, 7.53. So your decline in academics was. Okay. Then, in terms of doing something on your own, like you've been right through NSS, learning on your own, thinking, did you think of any startup or anything, because IITs and young school people, were looking into starting something. That idea never cropped up.
Sir,
I don't think that is a good way of
no,
creating wealth and all that.
it is a very good way. Not just about wealth, but I think entrepreneurship is a great field, and we did have a course also on that for bringing in new innovations, new kinds of ideas to the fore, and that indirectly again it is all about contributing to the society. So I love the idea of bringing up a startup, but I think I have decided on this only.
The last 2-3 years you've been only preparing for.
Yes, sir. I graduated in 2018.
2018, 3 years now.
19, I gave my first attempt, sir. I got eliminated in the prelims itself, and 20, this is
Second.
And in these preferences you have only the IAS and ticked off IFS. Why? Do you have anything against going abroad, serving India and globally?
that is more of a personal choice. I personally I wanted to stay back here with my parents, with my family. But otherwise, sir, the point is like if we get the IFS, we are not allowed to write again. So my ultimate aim was to get into an administrative services. So maybe otherwise I would have put that as a second or a third option.
No, is it right, is it?
Sir?
Take the exam once again.
Yeah,
You
but
cannot have
you can't.
second attempt.
You can't go for IAS again.
Okay.
We are not.
Yeah, good.
And this work from home, wages for women, there's been a lot of debate, how do you value in terms of money, contributions made by housemaker, homemaker, and so on. In the last 1 year, world has changed, virtual reality, virtual classes, and all that. How do you look at work from home from a women's perspective? Has it been the advantage or disadvantage? Are women getting more jobs? They're doing better. What is your view on this?
Sir, work from home has become a new norm thanks to the COVID situation. Not just women, sir. I think for everybody it has both advantages and disadvantages. One thing is the commutation time. These things have been reduced, but again the work atmosphere, being in a group, the teamwork that they do at the general office atmosphere, that might be missing for the usual employees, like as compared to the pre-COVID time. But otherwise, sir, I'm not competent enough to talk about whether this has really improved the employment status or not. I'm not very much aware of it, sir.
Assume you get selected and get posted somewhere. What would be your top 3 priorities? Which you think will help or will create a change?
So first thing is education. The next thing is education and health both. The next thing is infrastructure creation, sir. That is there. And the other thing is, sir, to safeguard the institutional autonomy, as in, sir, to make it more people friendly, the delivery of services. So I think that's it.
One last question. You said like most of us, school, intermediate, engineering, it has been something like pressure from family or whatever we have done according to somebody's whims and fancies, priorities or whatever. In the last post, engineering, what is the family support to you? You are able to win over them and convince and say whatever I want I will do, or my route is correct and all. The family is fine with it.
As a family, I think support is a very small word. They have been the in fact, God willing, tomorrow if I succeed, it is more of their success because they have been driving me more than myself. So it is a collective family goal, sir, for us. It's a dream for all of us. So I didn't have this right from childhood. It has been my father mainly who has been driving me into this, instilling me the values that are required for this. So that problem has never been there.
Because when we were studying, it was IAS at the peak. Now it is engineering, USA, and the other subjects are slow.
Okay. 30 minutes. In the main interview, it may be even a little less, 25 minutes. Each of us will give our feedback. You are very pleasant. You communicate very well, and you have a lot of strong points. You appeal to anyone, and you are cheerful. That is important. You are not morose. You are not deadly serious. However, there are two things. First of all, when there is a question about a secular state or a country investing taxpayers' money on what appears to be a purely single religious aspect, you have to detach yourself. Don't make yourself KCR or the CM. You have to say there are two views. One view is that it is though taxpayers' money well spent on improving tourism and providing amenities to the various people who visit that. The second view is it is not permissible. The government should have said, like Ayodhya temple, we want to improve this. So anybody who is interested, please donate. As far as a state debiting the consolidated fund of Telangana and spending it on a project which appears to be meant only for Hindus. Generally, Muslims and others, Christians don't visit Bali. So there are two views. Unless they say, what is your view? Don't unnecessarily venture into it. And similarly, in the Mission Bhagiratha, the major difference is Adilabad did have water, but this is the household. The objective is if there are 10 huts in a particular village, main objective, I don't know whether it will ever be achieved in my life, every one of those huts will get a tap. That is the aim. Whether we will get it or not, we don't know. So, Mission Bhagiratha, intention and in practice. And of course, he mentioned about the mechanical leakages of water. He was himself a former chairman of the Hyderabad Metropolitan. So he joked, what you should have said, there is an allegation that the estimates are much more than the actual cost. So they have overestimated. There appears to be a transmission loss of funds to the extent of 10 to 50. I have no personal knowledge. So you have to keep yourself always aloof from controversy. That's very important. The last point is, while you were one of those not so very serious Kuchipudi dancers, certainly not. You should not unnecessarily venture into finding out the differences between Bharatanatyam and Kuchipudi and comparing Kuchipudi with Bollywood, etc. There are many differences. Even a single search in Wikipedia will tell you. There is what is called Nutta, Nrutyam, Abhinayam, and also a story. Kuchipudi invariably has a story. Like Satyabhama's Jada. I don't know how much of Kuchipudi I have learned. So, whereas the concentration in Bharatanatyam is more on Nrutta, which is just the movement of bodies. You don't have to know, everybody need not know everything. You like dancing, you learnt it. That is a hobby. Be done with it. Don't go into territories which are a little deep and unknown to you. Try to always conceal your ignorance. Okay? Of course, he will give you a much better feedback because he asked very good questions. So, as far as I am concerned, I am very impressed with you. But nevertheless, you unnecessarily gave some, opportunity for me to find fault.
Yeah, to supplement what the chairman has said, he has covered very important points, appraisal of your personality. One thing is you are very confident. So, you are confident and that's a very positive quality. But then you have a problem of talking something and withdrawing midway. When you do not know the comprehensive answer to a question, you try to answer the question without thinking what would be the complete answer. Like when I said, what is the government control over temples? You said there are private temples. You are very vague. There is nothing called a private temple or a government temple. So if you have to answer about government control over the temples, you must say that government appoints staff, executive officers, they pay salaries and so on and so on. They also collect some fund from the temples.
Undi collections.
Yeah.
If it exceeds a certain amount,
Yeah.
then the government control comes.
It's called Endowment Administrative Fund, Common Good Fund, 3, 4. You don't have to get into the depth unless, since you are from Ayodhya district, it's a very prominent place. So you can expect questions on temples. And he also said, as if government is not spending on other religions, like, the state government have spent on the Muslims going for Hajj pilgrimage, to Jerusalem for, the Christians, so on and so forth. So your answer has to be balanced. And when you say up to certain amounts government can spend, it's a vague kind of an answer. And also based on newspaper reports, as the chairman has also pointed out, you cannot say that there's corruption and there are leakages as if you are an authority on the subject. As he said rightly, you must qualify your statement by saying there are the allegation in certain quarters that the estimates have been inflated and so on and so forth. And where you have complete knowledge about a particular subject, where your preparation is good, like Dharini, while he will comment on it, your answer is very good. And you also said supply creates its own demand. It has been started and therefore it will catch up. That's a very good answer. I like that. So therefore, you answer if you know the subject well, because you tend to get into the depth where your knowledge is good, which is very, very important. You can save no to 5 questions saying, I do not know, I'm sorry. But then the other 5, you can get into depth, analyze, and then present your views properly. You will have a better advantage.
Thank you.
By and large, it's okay, but I thought a few basics, you haven't really found out, originator of this your school. I mean, you were, area of
He
awareness was-
hinted, Dr. Samuel Johnson.
Yes.
Your area of awareness is limited to the founder of the school. Actually, it is after that famous grammarian. And it is there already, Johnson Grammar School.
Lexicon.
Okay. Okay, yeah. And you have a tendency to use, yeah. So please avoid that.
See, this is a formal communication.
So,
So you will have to,
yeah is a strict no.
you have to be very formal. Yes, yes, sir, yes, madam, whatever.
The other thing is the issue of women getting paid for household work. I think you should raise the level of your response to that question. Of course, you just tackled it at a very, very emotional level and very traditional way of woman tends to do that work because they are brought up in that kind of thing. But there are also many other dimensions to it. You have to go a little deeper into that. Being a woman, I am sure that this is one which will certainly
And further,
come out.
the scarce resource of the state. See, the state has some money given by taxpayers, citizens. Should it be frittered away only in this kind of welfare thing? Supposing there are 120 crores of human beings, half of them 60 crores will be women. Virtually all of them are homemakers. So should you go on paying, then what will be left for infrastructure, development?
I also hinted, Tamil Nadu party has, included in the manifesto. So if they start giving money to all the women who are quote unquote so-called homemakers, so imagine the amount of outgo.
So there also
Of
you
course,
need not.
You also said very well that opportunities must be created to bring them into mainstream economy and all that. Okay. But then,
So you will have to say there are two views, and the resources of the state are scarce. This is not a personal money of Kamal Hassan. All the money that is being spent, whether in Tamil Nadu or elsewhere in welfare, It is all your and my contribution. It should be properly invested in health, in education, infrastructure. You ask the question, what would you do if you get into the IAS, etc.? You gave a good answer. So, prioritization. Should you simply give away all the money to whoever is a lady and is cooking at home, 10,000 rupees? Then what are you left with? You will give away.
I think you are quite articulate. Good. But the other thing is, I think you are also very frank, saying I don't know. So, but don't get into this answer more often. Reason being, you are like the general awareness. I think you should improve. Then your state information and major position also should improve. And draw the discussion into your strengths. Okay. The third thing is, I think when he said about religion and all, as the chairman had pointed out, I think your response should be the background of the knowledge of the constitution about governance. So your stand will be different, not like an ordinary person.
don't know what is the
So be a bit more clear on constitution, governance, general information. I think that will help you.
Thank you.
Is there anything you want to ask?
They have one, they have two.
Any doubts? Anything you want?
Sir, my voice.
That's because the raise and down and all. In the UPSC, don't put round, it is a U shape. Don't worry, it won't be like this.
Yeah.
It will be U shape and they'll be able to hear. Acoustically, they have designed it in such a way that whatever you say can be heard. There is no problem. Any other question? Okay, then all the best.
Thank you. So June 8th. Sir, I am. So June 8th, sir.
Plenty of time.
Yes.
So you catch up on Telangana.
Yes.
Don't go by this. What Andhra fellows told that this is a country, this is a state which will collapse. It is one of the biggest states. In area, it is 12th largest. I'm sorry, 11th largest. In population, 12th largest. We are bigger than Bihar in area. West Bengal, Assam. There are so many states below us. Out of 28, we are number 11. So you have to know a little more about that.
Not
It's okay, even if it is young, we are capable.
that is the strength.
Okay then, if you have no other questions, God bless.